Hey guys! Today I want to share with you my testimony because I think it's important that everybody know that about you as a Christian. You need to share that part of your life. And I haven't done that, and I'm about to be 25. So I'm really nervous, but I'm just going to do it because I have a pretty interesting story, I think. For those of you who don't know me, I am adopted by a very lovely couple, my mom and dad that I call. My head's not in the shot. Okay, and I am adopted because my parents suffered from drug addictions, so they are doing better now, and I'm thankful for that. We've stayed in touch throughout the years, but that's something that you always struggle with as an individual, so just keep praying for them and their sobriety. When I was very young, I was exposed to some things I probably shouldn't have been exposed to due to the circumstances I was in. At a very early age, I can remember my parents fighting and arguing in front of me, and I can remember asking it to stop. Like, I don't think at the time I knew I was praying, but I feel like I was praying looking back. I didn't write anything down. I didn't prepare for this. So that was one thing I can remember about my childhood. And I don't remember much because I was young, and that I think was very beneficial to me. But I can remember living with different people, and there were some people that I lived with my parents and some without. And I felt safe in some places, and then in other places I knew I wasn't. So like my aunt and my uncle's house was a safe place for me, and I was very comfortable there, and they did a lot for me and my sister and for my dad. I'm thankful for that. And I can remember my dad's best friend's house being a safe place. They had kids, and it was a happy place to be in. I did, however, feel very unsafe at my grandmother's house. She was not very nice to me. I was the pick, I guess. Like, she would be nice to my sister, but she was very mean to me and abusive. And she actually did go to jail for that when my dad saw and noticed. So, with that being said, I did go through things that a child shouldn't go through, and my sister did as well. My sister ended up having to be the mom, pretty much, in some situations. And I still feel some guilt for that, even though I know it's not my fault, and it wasn't her fault, it's just how it was. So I lived with my dad at one point, and it's my earliest memory of church and learning about the Lord and how to pray. And my sister and I lived with my dad across the street from the church my aunt and my uncle I was talking about earlier went to. So at a young age, my sister got me up and took me to church because that was important to us at that time. It was just how it was. She got me up, we went to church. We went to Vacation Bible School. We had some very positive influences on our lives. I'm thankful for that. They helped us out a lot, helped my dad out a lot in taking care of us. They did what a church should do for their community. So that was my first memory of being in church. And then as time went on, my dad had to let us live with our mom for a little while, and she was with a new husband at the time who wasn't so good for her. I don't think they were good for each other, and they got involved in things that they shouldn't have and was living the wrong life, the drug life. And they were mean to each other and hit each other and fought a lot. And I prayed a lot early, and I mainly at the time prayed for like the police to show up or something to happen to make it stop. So I guess it's part of the reason, looking back, that I'm so supportive of our law enforcement, because they saved my little self a few times. They intervened and got me out of bad situations. So that's one of the roots to that, why I'm so supportive. Because even then, I could look back and see that they were a good thing for me, even though I might not have had my mom and dad at times, but they were good for me. So eventually I went from there, witnessing all that, me and my sister both, to living back with my dad. And we moved around then. We stayed in hotels, we stayed with his friends, we stayed with some family for a little while, some more family, and it was okay. I enjoyed being with my dad, but he couldn't take care of us. He had fallen back into that lifestyle. You know, like I said earlier, it's an everyday effort. And there's nothing wrong with what he did as far as taking care of me and giving me up, because he couldn't handle me and my sister. So he realized that he needed help, and he took and let my sister live with my grandmother. And he did not make me live with my grandmother, because he knew that what she had done. And for that, I went to live with my adoptive parents, who are connected to my dad's side of the family. So thankfully, my dad did the right thing and put us in a safe place while he dealt with himself. And that will always be a blessing to me. So I'm a happily adopted individual. Now, because of that, I didn't go live with my grandmother, and later on down the road, my sister actually ended up having to go into foster care, because TFAX got involved somehow and saw that the house, or where she was not fit, and my grandmother was not fit to take care of her at her age and her condition. So if I hadn't have gotten hurt and mistreated by my grandmother at a young age, I wouldn't be where I am as far as my parents go. I can look back now and see that there was a reason for all that and be thankful. Even though I had to go through some hard times and suffer a little bit, my God knew where he was going to put me. So there starts my major beliefs in everything happens for a reason. You are where you are in that hard time in your life because you need to be to get where you're going. So my mom, my new mom, has taught me a lot from a young age about Jesus, and she's read stories in the Bible with me at bedtime, and she's prayed with me at bedtime and at mealtime, and she has actually done a lot as far as my regular education as well. She taught me how to count to 100. I was about 7 years old and still didn't know how to count to 100, and she helped me, and she took me from being a special education child in elementary school, primary school, to a regular education child within a year. Because that's how much one person can impact your education if they put in the time and effort. She really devoted the time to me in the areas that I needed. She didn't just feed me, clothe me, send me to school. She worked with me when I was home on my religion. She taught me things that I needed to know if I didn't stay with her forever. And she taught me things that I needed to know about my salvation in case I didn't stay with her forever. And thankfully I did end up staying with her forever, but she made sure that I knew that what had happened to me was not my fault, and that I can still be smart and beautiful and love myself. I was saved not in church, actually. Funny story. I was very shy, so I didn't talk to anybody. And I went home and did that myself and prayed a prayer that the person told me to pray at Vacation Bible School. And I got my salvation at the age of 8 or 9, I believe, somewhere in there. I actually got my salvation at the age of 8 or 9, but I was not baptized until I was 15 at my new church, because every time I would tell somebody that I was saved, they would have a reason for me not to be. And I don't think that that was really cool as somebody who is in leadership at the church I went to. The second time it happened to me, I left the church and we started going to the church we go to now. And then after a few years being there, I decided to try again. That time it was for real, and I publicized my testament of faith. And then I think for you young people that may be watching this, your testament of faith in your religion is going to be tried so much in middle school and high school. And you're going to witness things from like these troubled children that you shouldn't, and you have to be strong in that, because I've been through it and I let it get to me, and I shouldn't have. But I did things in high school especially that I shouldn't have done. I talked the way I shouldn't have. I hung out with people I shouldn't have. And at the age of 18, I already dedicated my life, and I don't know what the pastor said or what made me do it. Just at the end of church, when they did the altar call, I went up there. I just let him have it again. And from that day forward, I stopped hanging out with the friends that I was hanging out with. Not because I did it purposely, but because I was uncomfortable around them after that. And I didn't have the same boyfriend that I had forever. And I changed the way I thought about things, and I worked on myself. And because I lost all my friends and the people I hung out with because they did things I didn't agree with, I was alone. And I could pray and I could work on myself. And that's the time in my life where I just really took advantage of loving myself and taking care of myself and bettering myself. So when I graduated high school, I was a different person, thankfully. Because then after that, I had to adult in life, and that would have been much harder. So shortly after high school, at the end of high school, I met my husband, Matt, and he was a part of the church group I was in. So I'm glad I got back in church. I'm glad my youth pastor actually stayed on me and kept inviting me to stuff and kept me in the loop so that I could be where I needed to be and be surrounded by people that I needed to be surrounded by, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have met the people I met that guided me where I needed to be, and I wouldn't have stayed changed. I would have turned back to the friends that I had before that weren't good for me. So he did something good for me, and I appreciate that. And I wouldn't have met Matt. So I'm a firm believer in the fact that everything happens for a reason, and we're put here for a reason, and we have a life to live out for the glory of God. And some of you may think I'm crazy, and that's all right. All I needed was for you to hear what I had to say and to kind of know a little bit more about me and my background. Thanks for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed. You can share this with whoever needs to hear it. Thanks.